So from all of this, what were some of the insights we gained from those people? Well, first was we were confident the industry will double. Not if, the industry will double in size and potentially triple over the next 10 years. One of the other predictions that Mark Yanzi from Digital Bridge said was there's going to be 38 gigawatts of new capacity for AI alone in the next 5 years. Another interesting point was we've only reached 20% saturation or penetration of cloud. Cloud has already been going at a massive clip. Then you think of the pandemic, and then you think of AI. So cloud has got a whole bunch of growth opportunities still left in it, on top of what's going on with generative AI. And this one blew my mind. I had people tell me, multiple biggest portfolios in the world say that they're going to be doubling what they've built in the last decade or more in 2 years. 2 years. This sounds like a bunch of yapping, but in the end of it, we did refresh these numbers last month in Cannes, and it blew my mind again. Since we launched this report, where we locked the numbers in October 2023 and released this in April, 30 gigawatts of additional capacity has been added to the global pipeline. 30 gigawatts. We're in the gigawatt numbers. This is just insane when it comes to the size. Now, if you think about it, we had this challenge before just with cloud and the pandemic, et cetera, and all of a sudden it's just been supercharged when it comes down to generative AI, because the majority of this is directly from deployments that are supporting generative AI type workloads. Now, with this, what are the key issues that they're trying to solve? So from these portfolio owners, there were 4. Number 1, power, access to the power in the right place, capacity, right, and the time frame. Second was people, okay, the actual people to run and do all the things within this stack itself. Third is perception. How is the industry perceived, and what is that actually doing to our ability to go back and grow? The fourth one was planet. We're trying to go back and actually cause or drive sustainable agendas across our digital infrastructure deployments. But there's a compromise and a challenge coming back with that because of the growth. So I'm going to go into a few of these pieces. So first, with power, the demand has outpaced the capacity. We've never seen this. And again, I've been doing this 35 years. I have never had that much demand translate into that much capacity backed by that much money at that time frame. It's incredible. Vacancy rates around the world are at an all-time low. Loudoun County, 0. The biggest data center concentration in the world has no capacity left. There is 5 to 7 years of wait time because of transmission lines, not generation, literally not in my backyard, and the transmission lines getting the power to the right place. So from a power perspective, it's very simple. They can't get access to the power in the places they need it today. Second, for people, 40% of the workforce is graying out. From all of the basic infrastructure we're talking about, 40% of our population is going to be retiring. We're going to have a 300,000 person shortfall by 2025. That is next year. So we've got a very big people resource challenge that we have to go back and address. And everybody's feeling this pain because the acceleration and construction and everything else, they just can't get electricians, they can't get mechanics, they literally can't get the things that they need in the right places. The third issue is perception. We're now starting to see people push back on data centers. Loudoun County has got literal organizations that are saying no more, stop. Data centers are killing our community. So that Singapore, Amsterdam, right? I believe Sydney, there's places all over the world that now are starting to push back on how this data center capacity is being expanded. So the fourth one was planet. And this is the one that concerned me the most. With rapid growth, there's a growth at all cost concept, right? And that is leading to potential compromises in how we're going to achieve our net zero goals. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So one of the other insights of this is the capacity growth. If you look at the biggest growth across those numbers is still in the established markets, but it's being pushed out because they literally can't get it where they need it. Now they're compromising and think about different places that they would have never thought of before. Second one is that the smallest markets, and we had a highlight in here, Africa, India, and Latin America represent 44% of the world's population. So that's 3.5 billion people. The median age is 28, and they have only 5% of the global data center capacity. Think about that. 5% of the total capacity for the youngest population in the world representing 44% of the people. This is where the future is going to be, and we don't have the capacity where it needs to be. So the growth is going to be incredible. Now, when you go into the people aspect of this, a positive is every time we build a data center, for every direct data center job, we now have math that supports it. There are 6 additional local jobs created. That is a 1 for 6 for every one of the people we deploy to these locations. So it's lucrative. It helps the community in that aspect from an economic standpoint. And the people shortage we've got right now, if you look at it from an inclusion standpoint, we have less than 10% females in our industry. Most of the people look like me. Caucasian males over 50, hence the graying out. If we were just to tap into that population, we could actually solve this talent shortage we've got right now when it comes down to resources. And the next piece of this is from the planet. This rapid growth and decarbonization, the efforts we're doing, are diametrically opposed. That means that carbon debt will increase before it actually goes down because of the growth. And we've seen this across Google, Microsoft, and other sustainability reports. They've taken a step backwards because of the massive growth, which means we need to rethink this. Okay, in 2022, we were all concerned from the leadership team with across iMasons about the speed of which we were going after decarbonization. So we gathered those people together at Christian Belotti's house. We called this Shea Belotti. So in the middle is Christian Belotti, who was at Microsoft, who's driven massive amounts of stuff in our industry. Next to him is AWS, Apple, Google, Meta. So all the biggest portfolio owners in the world. And we said, let's find one thing we can do together, one, to go back and help when it comes down to decarbonization of digital infrastructure. Now, overlay that with the growth we just talked about. If we're going to be tripling the amount of infrastructure, that means we must build this sustainably day one. If not, we're tripling the carbon debt. So now we united over 270 companies with a combined market cap of $8 trillion US, all focused on net zero carbon for digital infrastructure. And how are we doing that? Well, first off, if you look at these companies, the 4 anchors are AWS, Google, Meta, Microsoft, and then hundreds of other companies that are within that ecosystem itself. There's a significant amount of buying power of how we can go after this. And the leadership team, each of them has stepped in, all those companies, to provide focused resources to go back to after this to make sure that we can make the progress we're looking for. And the way we do this is a very simple framework. We are now decarbonizing across materials. So think of the core and shell, the building, concrete, steel, etc. The equipment, the stuff goes in the building, and the power, the source energy that actually enables the work to happen. So if you look at the left 2, that's embodied carbon. You look at the right, that's the energy and the carbon intensity of that energy. Our goal here is to go back and decarbonize across all 3 of these categories. We've aligned on that. So some of the actions we've taken is we've aligned with the Open Compute Foundation, and they are doing carbon accounting and creating carbon labels. Those carbon labels are like nutrition labels on food. We're going to put them on buildings, and we're going to put them on hardware, equipment that goes in the data centers. So we also did an open letter calling for greener concrete. It represents 14% of the carbon emissions globally. If we can now address the 3x growth, that's a lot of buildings and a lot of concrete. On top of that, we also had an open letter for EPDs. EPDs are environmental product disclosures. Those are essentially the carbon labels. They've done a lifetime carbon assessment on a product. They've now said this is what the carbon, embodied carbon, is for that product. Now you can make buying decisions around what it is that you're doing, who has the lowest carbon. So from that, now I'm going to take this one step further. We've got this structure with 270 companies going after leading with our wallets to go back and drive via procurement. But now we've got this constraint. We don't have power in the right place. So one of the big trends that came up is we should move the data center to the power versus the power to the data center. We keep trying to force fit and organically grow in different areas that are not really meant for this.